I'd like to call the Monday, February 6, 2023 Onslow County Board of Commissioners meeting to order at this time and ask that our County Manager, Ms. Sharon Griffith, provide us with the invocation, followed by our Assistant County Manager, Sherry Slater, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you and good morning, Chairman Foster and Commissioners. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you to conduct the business of Onslow County. Lord, this month, as we celebrate Black History Month, we praise the contributions of our local African American residents and recognize their central role in the history of the United States and in our community. May all we do this day bring you honor and glory. Now, with deep respect and reverence for the faiths, beliefs, and traditions of those gathered here today, join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, and amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to acknowledge some of our elected officials here with us this morning. Alderman from North Topsail Beach, Mr. Rick Grant. We appreciate you being here, and sitting there with us in the back is the Sheriff of Onslow County, Sheriff Chris Thomas, and I believe he's got his Chief Deputy, Colonel Sean George, with him this morning as well. And then we do have a representative from Onslow County Schools, Dr. Brendan Gartner, with us as well. So welcome and thank you for being here. At this time, I'd like for a motion to adopt our agenda. But before we do that, I did this last time, as I need to remind everyone to turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate mode. We will offer one opportunity to speak during the meeting, and those comments should be limited to no more than 5 minutes and may be on any issue upon which the Board of Commissioners has control. In accordance with the Board's adopted rules of procedure, Commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the Commissioners' comment period on the agenda. Now ask for that motion to adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been adopted. For the approval of the items on the consent agenda, are there any board members with questions or concerns about the consent agenda that they would like removed and moved to the end of the meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, signify saying aye. And that is approved as well. Motion carries. And now we'll turn it over to our County Manager, Ms. Griffin, for any public comment this morning.
Thank you, Chairman Foster. Commissioners, we do have one speaker signed up this morning for our public comment period. Before we get started on that, I would remind the audience that public comment speakers have exactly 5 minutes in which to speak. We ask you to adhere to that. As Chairman Foster just mentioned, our commissioners do not respond during public comment, but if they feel there is a response that they would like to make, they save that for their commissioner comments at the end of the meeting. We also ask that you address the board as a whole and that you keep your language very professional and not speak with anyone in the audience during your 5-minute period. At this time, I welcome Ms. Tracy Rayner of 174 Foy Locking Road in Jacksonville. And if you would please repeat your name and address when you get to the mic.
Hi, my name is Tracy Rayner. I live at 174 Foy Locking Road, Jacksonville. Good morning. On behalf of myself, and I'm sure thousands of Onslow County taxpayers, I'm here to discuss the increased property tax burden placed upon the cities of Onslow County. Last month, a lady from Swansboro stood up here during public comment and stated that her taxes went up 60%. I'm here for a similar reason. I have evaluated each tax statement for the properties that my husband and I own here in Onslow County, and I've split out the city versus county taxes. I am only speaking to you regarding the county taxes. Of those properties, the tax increase was anywhere from 24.5% to 88% increase. That's huge. So let's say that the average increase in Onslow County is 40%. Let's just take it kind of in the middle. That's still huge. 40% times how many hundreds or thousands of properties in Onslow County comes up to a huge increase in revenue in the county, for the county. Only the government could do such a thing. I can't go up 40% on rent of my properties. It would be too unaffordable. And if I could, I'd be lucky to keep my existing renters or find new ones. I try to keep my rents affordable for the public, not to price gouge. Besides, they're in one-year leases, so I can't go up on their rent until their lease renews. So the escrow amount is short the escrow account is short the huge unexpected increase, and then they collect for the next year too, so we won't be short again, and that results in too large of an increase to go up in rent, much less too much of an increase sometimes for people who have primary residences and are living and are can only afford what they can afford. Multiply that times the number of properties, and that's way too much of a jump for the owner, the renter, and unreasonable at that. And since I can't go up until the lease is due, the expense falls upon me, and until then, and even at that, I can't go up 40% to recoup it. So what is that excess money going to? I realize that Onslow County has services to provide, but as you look at the budget for the coming year, I ask that you look at what can be trimmed and not necessary. We are coming out of a pandemic, inflation is high, mortgage rates increased, grocery costs, gas prices. The taxpayers don't need the added burden. I know that the tax rate was reduced from 70 cents per hundred in 2021 to 65 cents per hundred in 2022. So thank you for that. But just because the market value and tax values have increased doesn't mean the county needs an average of 40% more to spend. Don't get me wrong, it's great that the values of our properties went up, artificially as it may be, but unless you're selling your property, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that the same property that went from $50,000 to $100,000, the property owner is now paying twice as much taxes only because the value of their property went up, not because they're benefiting from more services. That doesn't necessitate larger revenue for the county to spend. It only puts a larger tax burden on the taxpayer who's already having a hard time adjusting to the already skyrocketing cost of their monthly expenses. Then add the roughly same percentage of increase that they will pay to the city that they live in, and it's even more grandiose. I ask that the commissioners reevaluate the tax rate and consider an even larger decrease in the rate per hundred value to allow a reasonable increase in revenue for the county, such as 15 to 20%, not 40% on average. Last month, the chairman said we can't be tax neutral. I'm not asking for tax neutral, but an average of 40% is thievery. Please consider this tax burden as you are looking at the county budget and wanting to spend even more. Let's trim the fat and spend the fat money efficiently, not spend more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Rayner. That concludes our public comment period today. Chairman Foster.
Moving into proclamations, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, Chairman Foster and Commissioners. Today we have one proclamation to present, and I will read it into the record. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow, Proclamation, Black History Month 2023. Whereas in 1976, Black History Month was formally adopted to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout our American experience, which goes back thousands of years and includes some of the greatest, most advanced, and innovative societies in our history that we can all draw inspiration from. And whereas each February, we pause to reflect on the contributions of the African American community to our national and local identity, and Black History Month allows us to learn more about this vital part of our nation's story. And whereas as a result of their determination, hard work, and perseverance, African Americans have made valuable and lasting contributions to the County of Onslow and our state, achieving exceptional successes in all aspects of society, including business, education, politics, science, and the arts. And whereas we join with all Americans in celebrating our diverse heritage and culture and continuing our efforts to protect democracy for all people, and recognizing the vital achievements of our local African American residents, And whereas during Black History Month, all Americans are encouraged to reflect on past successes and challenges of African Americans and to look to the future to continue to improve society so that we live up to the ideals of freedom, equality, and justice. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners acknowledges February 2023 as Black History Month in Onslow County, presented this the 6th day of February 2023 by the Onslow County Board of Commissioners. And Chairman Foster has requested that Commissioner Walter Scott present this proclamation. We have today representatives from our internal Black History Month committee. If you would please come up at this time, and they're going to accept this award.
It is indeed an honor to stand here today for this ceremony. People like Rosa Clark Parks, Carter G. Woodson, Frederick Douglass, and Martin Luther King. For if they had not stood up and stood fast to their cause, we might be doing things different today. But I want to applaud them and their efforts. And it is a privilege to stand here with you today and continue their fight for freedom for all. And I thank you. And it is a tremendous pleasure that the commissioners represent the Black history in Onslow County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Black History Committee over at the Department of Social Services, we'd like to extend a thank you very much for this. We appreciate it. We try to educate as much as we can. It's about a learning experience for us all, and every day we learn something new. So we'd like to thank the county commissioners for allowing us to go ahead and express our Black history in the month of February. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Griffin, I think it's now time for our county department spotlights. I know we got a couple of folks that are excited about sharing about their departments.
We do, and we have our first department up today leads a team that doesn't get a lot of thank yous from the public. It's a tough job. We are very happy to welcome Kevin Turner, and he is our tax administrator, and is going to talk a little bit about what the tax department does and how they serve our community.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for the time to be here today to speak with you. When I first learned that I was going to be talking to you today about the tax office or the tax department, I started pulling my data together and collecting numbers, and I realized I want to go a little bit deeper than that. I can give you statistics, I can give you numbers, but I want to go what's behind the numbers. And what that is 4 divisions within the tax office. We have the appraisal division that's responsible for the reassessment of all the real estate in Onslow County. We have our land records division that is responsible for, among many things, the land use program referred to as PUV. We have our listings division that's responsible for the personal property listings such as boats, trailers, and things of that like that. And we have our collections division that's responsible for the billing and the collecting of the taxes. But beyond that, we have 4 different divisions, but there's one thing they all have in common, and that's serving the citizens of our county. And regardless of what the issue is, if a citizen needs help, our folks in each division, they try to do what they can to help the citizen without passing them back and forth, without passing them along. And they make our customer service a top priority. And you won't find a better group of people to work with and to stand alongside and serve our community. They work tireless hours, sometimes from 7 in the morning till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, because that's what's required sometimes. And they do it without complaining, and they do it and they keep a smile on their face while they're doing it. And that's really all I've got right now. I can give more details later if you would like more, but I just wanted to focus on the folks who are in the tax office, and that's what really keeps us going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. We really appreciate that. Our second county department spotlight is from Senior Services, which we refer to as the Disney World of Onslow County government.
Thank you.
If you need to be happy, you go over to Senior Services and see what they're doing. But I welcome Clay Calhoun.
Thank you, Sharon. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to represent Senior Services. This is not about me. This is about the department that we're in, and I want to boast about them a little bit. During the last year, the senior-centered staff really focused on documentation for what we do, and through that, they were recognized again as a Senior Center of Excellence. And what that means for the county is additional funding, so we get the highest level of funding from our grant that comes in. So I want to thank them for that. Additionally, we have the Home and Community Block Grant that has several programs. Because of the meticulous efforts that the staff do, the AAA has recommended that we not be audited this year, so anytime we can get away from audits, we love it. With that, though, I want to tell you a little bit about what Senior Services does, and also for the people out in G10 that they know what we offer for our seniors in Onslow County. The Senior Center, we have a bunch of activities and events that we do Monday through Friday. These activities and events are designed to not only create socialization, but also cognitive stimulation. Keep our seniors happy. You won't come over there and find a sad person in that building. I guarantee you, they're always happy. And come over on Friday, and you'll really see how much joy they have with bingo. We also do some good things with our 3D classes, which is evidence-based classes. This helps people walk with ease, Tai Chi, maintain balance. So those are some things that we do offer for our seniors. The in-home services, this is a personal service program that's conducted by aides. They actually go into the home and they provide some activities of daily living for our clients. That ensures that the clients can stay in the home and remain independent without having to be going to a nursing home. And this is one of those community block grant programs. Our nutrition program is we have two. We have one which is for people to come into the center and have lunch with us on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. And we also have volunteers that take home delivered meals to the clients who are homebound. Some clients, sometimes that is the only activity or interaction they have with people throughout the week is that Meals on Wheels driver. So I want to thank all the volunteers. Our transportation program, we have two. One is the Congruent Nutrition, which brings the clients to our 5 centers. And we also have the medical transportation, which helps some of the seniors who would not otherwise be able to get to their medical appointments. And we have the Community Alternatives Program. This is for disabled adults. This is a Medicaid-based program that also it supplements any health care through AIDS that the clients may need, and that prevents them from being institutionalized. And we have several programs that the social workers that work with them and ensure that they have all the medical needs that they need in their home. And we have our adult daycare. This is our New Life Enrichment Center. This allows people to bring their loved ones to the center Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, so that they can go about working. And sometimes mom or dad needs a little extra care and you're afraid to leave mom and dad home. Well, we have this fee-based program where you can bring your loved one, and it's like a home environment. And the staff love their clients more than love some of their own family, I tell you. And then lastly, we have Friends of the Aging program. This is our nonprofit program, and this helps clients who may need a little more assistance for emergency crisis that would not be able to get otherwise. And with that, we have our annual lasagna dinner coming up in March, and everybody's welcome to attend. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clay. We appreciate that and everything that you're doing over at Senior Services. And that's all we have today for our department head, department spotlight.
We appreciate the gentleman coming in this morning and sharing not only the board, but also with all the citizens out there that are not always aware of the work that's going on there. So we appreciate that. And at this time, we'll turn this right back over to you, Ms. Griffin, and get us started with our hearings.
Thank you so much. And Commissioners, we're looking today at a couple of public hearings, the first of which is for a rezoning item CREZ-2022-00002, the Shady Grove conditional rezoning. And at this time, I'd like to turn the mic over to Assistant County Manager Ben Warren, who will provide a brief introduction and staff recommendation.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Vice Chairman and County Commissioners. My name is Carter Metcalf.
And I'm so sorry, Carter. This is Carter Metcalf. This is not Assistant County Manager Ben Warren. This is Carter Metcalf of our Planning Department.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, I'm a planner on staff here at the county in the Planning Development Department. I've been asked by Mr. Warren to come present the item to you. Been working with the applicant since May when they first started engaging with the county. Again, as Ms. Griffin already said, it's Shady Grove Solar, conditional rezoning request, Series Z, 2022, number 2. The overview of this request is that currently the properties have 2 zoning districts, RA, or Rural Agriculture, and Residential 10, or R10. The proposal change is to conditional RA, or RACZ for short. The applicant is John Eskew with Cypress Creek Renewables. There's a variety of property owners, which is listed there on the screen. And there's 6 pieces of property that make up the entire subject area. The location is off of 5 Mile Road, which is where the access road for the solar farm would be, as well as also has frontage off Bachelor Road as well. The rezoning area is 1,009.71 acres of the total 1,027.21 acres. The existing use for the property is agriculture. It's predominantly for 5 of the parcels. 1 parcel is forested land, and there's residential nearby. There's a 6-inch Onslow water line that goes along 5 Mile, and there's no sewer in the area, and so therefore any wastewater concerns would have to be accommodated by individual septic. Fire service is for the 9 Mile Fire District with an ISO rating of 6. And the traffic, which is the most up-to-date counts we have, which is 500 trips, off of Bachelor Road with a capacity of over 9,000. Here's our zoning layer for the county. All pieces of property in the county in our department have 2 categories. The first is zoning, which tells you what you can do today. And then the second is your future land use, which is the county's intended vision. We'll get to that later. So here you see 3 of the properties are in the orange, which is the R10, and then 3 are in the lime green, which is the RA. So our first zoning district is RA, minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. And the purpose of this district is to maintain a rural development pattern that preserves the agricultural character of the county while accommodating limited low-density single-family and limited commercial uses for the surrounding area. Our other zoning district is R10, minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. And the purpose of that district is to provide for moderate density single family and limited multifamily in urbanizing areas of the county that have access to the necessary utility and transportation infrastructure. So a proposed zoning district would have a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, keeping with that base standard, and would be to provide for all of the permitted uses in the RA zoning district, while also approving this specific site plan for this specific solar farm. The comprehensive plan details 2 future land use zoning districts, or excuse me, 2 future land use districts. The first is this rural residential. This category is to maintain and preserve undeveloped or sparsely developed lands in the county that are not designated agriculture forestry, and specifically contribute to our recognition of a rural character for the county. So the intent is to preserve that rural character. Well, the conservation district accommodates our environmentally sensitive areas, wetlands, streams, fragile areas, areas of concern, and our floodplains. The purpose is to preserve that environmentally sensitive area. Here's our future land use map. This is the other category I was mentioning earlier, designating this other category, which is what we intend to see. The maroon or that purplish red color is the rural residential to keep with our rural character, and then the light blue is for conservation. The blue to the northwest is surrounding the regulated flood zones around the Juniper Branch stream. And then to the southwest, that block of blue is for a specific wetland that our comprehensive plan called out. So it's designed to protect that wetland there, the Bachelor Flatwoods. The proposal before you can be considered reasonable and in the public interest, and the fact that the rezoning would continue to advance our steps as a county towards renewable energy and energy independence. Supported by an Onslow County Comprehensive Plan Policy 51, and a summary of that is that we will support pro-business and pro-growth attitude in the county. While it can also be considered unreasonable and not in the public interest, and that it impacts a significant natural heritage area of the county. That was that protected wetlands we looked at earlier. And as well, the solar farm is not intended to stick around forever. It's got about a 30-year lifespan on it, and at some point it will be decommissioned. They have filed a decommissioning plan with staff, and we have reviewed it. And part of that plan is that it would be impacting the county's landfill. There are 6 policies of the comprehensive plan that would not support the rezoning. They're listed out there for you. Summary of those is that rural lands in the county that are productive are important to us. We shall take no harm towards any of our natural heritage sites, as well as we support forested areas. December 1st of 2022, this proposal was before the Onslow County Planning Board, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request. There was expert testimony in support of the rezoning by a state-certified appraiser and a professional engineer. No citizens spoke against the request, while some spoke for it. Here's an aerial of the property. 6 of them, again, as we talked about previously, are currently agricultural land, while the southwestern property is forested. And there is a Duke Energy power line that goes through the very end of the southwestern property, right above Bachelor Road. As well, you can see its location there, just south of Albert J. Ellis Airport. Now, part of a conditional rezoning is it also features a site plan. Therefore, it's approving the overall district and the specific site plan. Site plan there is 1 page of it's featured on the left. The dark blue squares would be the actual modules for the solar panels. And then it would feature a transmission line that would go down to the southwestern property to that block of red, which would be a new utility substation connecting to Duke Energy's power line. We require, as part of the site plan, that it would buffer against residential uses. They've elected for a planted buffer, and you can see that on the right side of your screen. They have exceeded the county requirements and added an additional vegetation to make sure it's more difficult to see the panels and provide a more adequate buffer. That's a rendering of what they expect to install. This time, this concludes the presentation by county staff.
Thank you so much, Carter. And at this time, I will open the public hearing for this matter, CREZ-2022-0002 for Shady Grove conditional rezoning. We do have 8 citizens who have signed up for this part of the public hearing to speak on this rezoning. I would remind each speaker that when you're called, you should come forward, say your name, your address. You have exactly 5 minutes in which to speak. And during this point of the public hearing, the Board of Commissioners will not have dialogue with you or ask you questions. When I conclude the public hearing, if they have questions or they want to ask you something in particular, they will call you back up. So don't leave the room, but please don't expect the Board of Commissioners to answer any questions you may have. And at this time, I will call our first speaker, Harrison Cole of 45 Banks Avenue in Asheville.
My name is Harrison Cole. My address is 45 Banks Avenue in Asheville, North Carolina. Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for having us today on a lovely Monday morning. I'm here to represent Shady Grove Solar and Cypress Creek Renewables. I'm a senior developer with Cypress Creek. I've been here for 6 years, and we're a local company. We're based out of Durham, North Carolina, and have a satellite office in Asheville as well. We've been in North Carolina since 2014 and developed solar farms across the state. We've been in over 40 counties and have a great working relationship with them, and that includes Onslow County, where we have some smaller sites that we developed, and actually not too far from this project. We do have our own operations and maintenance department located in Durham, so that means that if there's any kind of issues with the farms, they can call the phone number on the sign, and they can dispatch a technician to get out for any kind of maintenance issue or vegetative buffer issue, anything like that. So we're really proud of that division that we have, and we do take a great amount of pride in working with the communities that we're in. We've reached out to a few nonprofits in Onslow County to determine what kind of partnership we can have with the local community, including joining the Chamber of Commerce and supporting them in any way that we can. So about Shady Grove Solar, so while the rezoning request is for over 1,000 acres, as you saw in the site plan, the actual area of disturbance will be about 500 or so acres, and that's where the solar farm will actually be located. We've worked with the HOA, the local HOA, in enhancing the required vegetative buffer so that they can help to mitigate any kind of visual impact that they might have. And we've done a couple different community meetings with them, and we've had great conversation with them, and it was a really positive experience for us. This project is going to be selling power to Duke Energy. That is the plan. We're still a couple years out for construction, and so during that time frame, we're doing our development process, and that's why we're here in front of you today. That includes doing a limited NEPA study and working with the Utilities Commission of North Carolina to determine if there is any kind of archaeological significant sites, and they have come back with nothing on site. So we're doing all of our environmental due diligence, making sure that we're gonna, it's gonna be the best project that we can. As you know, this land is currently agricultural fields. Solar occupies less than 1% of all available agricultural land in North Carolina, and if you include timberland, that figure gets even smaller. So the timber easement, or the timber parcel that you saw on the site plan, that'll only be used for an electrical easement and then an occupying maintenance road as well. We're not gonna be doing any tree clearing in that area. If there is, it'll be very minimal just to make sure our maintenance vehicles can get up and down that parcel. And so we're leaving the rest of the parcel in that conservation area, and so really just looking, really focusing on the agricultural fields, which we have under site control with our landowners. So with that, that is all I have, and welcome any questions at a later point, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Our next speaker in the public hearing is Mr. Nicholas Kirkland of 9408 Northfield Court in Raleigh.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Kirkland. The address is 9408 Northfield Court, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm a state certified general appraiser in the state of North Carolina as well as the Commonwealth of Virginia. I've been accepted as an expert in property value impacts for real estate impact uses such as solar farms well over 100 times before a bunch of different boards at this point. I'm here to present the Kirkland Appraisal's impact study that was done in order to address whether or not the proposed solar farm would have any impact on the adjoining property values and also whether or not it would be in harmony in the area in which it's to be located. So what we've done is we've looked at the adjoining uses and the area that it's located in and compared that to the other 900 plus solar farms that we've looked at across the country. The vast majority of the solar farms we've looked at adjoin residential and agricultural uses, and this proposed solar farm is very similar to that. And so based on this, it's my professional opinion that the proposed use will be a harmonious use in its location. Furthermore, we've done what's called a matched pair or a paired sales analysis. This is a methodology supported by the Appraisal Institute, and it's outlined in detail in the Appraisal Institute textbook, Real Estate Damages, written by Randall Bell. This involves comparing a home that is sold adjacent to a solar farm with a similar property that sold that was not adjacent to a solar farm in order to measure for any difference. We've got over 90 matched pairs that indicate no significant impact to the adjoining property value. Based on this information, it's my professional opinion that the proposed use will not impact the adjoining property value. I know I blew through that really quickly. If you have any questions at the end, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have or go into further detail on how all this works. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kirkland. Our next speaker is Nelson Valentin of 306. I'm not sure the name of the lane, and that's in Jacksonville. Okay, sorry about that, Pettigrew Lane.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and County Commissioners. Some of you know who I am, but for the record, my name is Nelson Valentin, and I'm going to read a statement here just because of the time. I, Nelson Valentin, along with my brother, we own 60 acres of land adjacent to the proposed solar panel installation is going to be. The location of our land is located at the end of Timberlane Lane in Richlands, North Carolina. At the same location, Mr. Dennis Yedo owns 10 acres of land within our own 60 acres. In other words, his 10 acres is within the middle of our 60 acres. We have a very concern about the impact the solar panels will have in our property. We know the solar panels are here. They are not going away. However, consideration should be given to the impact it will have to those that live and have properties around the solar panel farms. As stated, we have some concerns. We would like the county commissioners or the company that is selling the panels to answer, as well as to take into consideration the impact that it will have. Solar panels farms generate electromagnetic interference. This means that electromagnetic causes interfere with the internet, phone, and television reception. In locations such as where our land is located, depending on who the provider is, there's already problems with the use of our personal phones in that area. And the issue with the solar panel is adding further restrictions. Television, again, due to the lack of internet, it would make smart televisions almost impossible to be used. So my question is, what is being done or is going to be done to mitigate the lack of internet for property owners near the farm? There are risks with living within the solar panel farms. One of those risks is the electromagnetic radiation the panels and equipment produces. Electromagnetic waves are very unhealthy for the human body. With so many diseases we already have to worry about, now we have to add the radiation. I personally have health issues, including an implant on my back that uses electroshocks. My concern will be the interference of this electromagnetic producers by the solar panels in my implant myself. This is a big health issue for me, not only physical, but also mentally. Okay? My land or our land gives me a sense of peace where I can go and enjoy the land as I wish. I suffer from PTSD and anxiety. My land provides me with that therapy that is much needed from time to time. My question is, what's going to be done to minimize the electromagnetic radiation that the solar panel farms produces and mitigate the health issues for the people and families that own their homes near the farm? Some people have electromagnetic hypersensitivity. Do they know that the solar farm is going to be near their homes and the impact that it's going to have on them? Solar panels have toxic materials that, if leaked into the soil, could cause irreversible damage. The leak runoff can get into our land, causing problems to our vegetation and our natural resources that we enjoy with the many animals in that area. What practice will be implemented to minimize the toxic materials getting into the soil and possibly causing a runoff into our property? The area property during the rainy season gets very wet. It's not considered wetland, but the water doesn't really saturate very much. This means that the land that is going to be useful for the solar panels farm will need to be raised to avoid the standing water. This means that this water will run off into our property, causing our property to be underwater for a longer period of time, making our land unusable for a longer period. What is the commissioners or the company installing the panels plan to mitigate this issue? And I brought the commissioners, but I know it's not you guys, it's the company that is going to be installing these panels. Solar panel farms lowest property value. I disagree with the gentleman. Those property values located close to near the farms. This is a big issue for those that own property and looking to sell it in the future. Most people that are looking to buy property homes will consider the property unsuitable to either buy or build their homes. When my brother and I purchased our property, our desire was to build houses, to include our own, to enjoy the natural beauty of the area. People buy land to build their homes to enjoy the natural beauty of the vegetations, animals, and the beautiful sceneries not to look at solar panels. Now our natural beauty is restricted due to the solar panel farms. Okay. Again, what is the consideration that is taken for the negative impact that is going to have on our property values surrounding the properties, land such as our land and the land owned by Mr. Udall?
Thank you so much, Mr. Valentine.
I have more, I guess, because of time, so I will gladly leave this behind for somebody to take a look at it and would like some answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. John Eskew of 5310 South Austin Avenue in Durham, North Carolina.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us today. I'm a colleague of Harrison Cole. Work at Cypress Creek Renewables representing Shady Grove Solar today. I was not planning on speaking, but just wanted to address a couple of the concerns brought up by the public. Regarding the EMF radiation on site, this is very common concern that people have, and it's very important to address. A lot of the equipment on site itself does not produce any electromagnetic fields. The inverter equipment that's centrally located along the facility produces about the equivalent of what you would expect standing by your TV or microwave in your home. So there is no EMF radiation that leaches outside of the fencing of the solar facility itself, harming any public health or any concerns of that nature. Regarding the chemical leaching of the modules themselves, being a part of the operations and maintenance team prior to getting into project development for a few years, anytime a module is damaged on site, they're encased in glass and aluminum. They themselves do not leach anything. If they are damaged, there is some potential. But however, anytime we do identify a damaged module itself, it is isolated, removed from the racking itself, and stored properly based off federal and local guidelines to prevent any kind of potential leaching itself, which is very likely never to happen. Regarding the land use and potential for concerns regarding water runoff and things like that, we like to think of as a solar array as a non-impervious surface, so it's not like a community or a parking lot where you have a lot of runoff. These modules themselves allow for rainwater to hit, run off, and then go back into the natural land itself. In addition, the property itself that we are proposing where the solar modules themselves will be located has a lot of existing agricultural ditches in place to help with any water load that comes from the facility itself, and we plan to leave those all intact. And beyond that, I just really appreciate y'all's time again to address a couple of these points that were brought up, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eskew. Our next speaker is Mr. Troy Futrell of 443 Bachelor Road in Richlands, North Carolina.
I want to thank you for your time. I'm a concerned citizen, and I had some questions that I'm unsure of. The first one is the manufacturing of the solar panels themselves, and I'm not against the people that are putting them in or any company that is putting these systems in. But my question is, the mineral that it takes to make these solar panels is coal. And our government, I just saw on the news the other day, is trying to prohibit the mining of minerals in the United States for the next 20 years. So therefore, we're going to have to buy all these products from other countries. It takes a tremendous amount of coal to produce these panels, and this burning of the fuel of these minerals are going in our atmosphere, and I'm concerned about what it is going to do to the atmosphere. It says renewable energy, but these panels only have a lifespan of so many years, 30 years, and then we got to start the process over again. So therefore, I don't know what this will do to our environment. I don't think it's very good for the environment. Another question I have is disposals of these panels at the end of their life cycle. I don't know about any disposable sites, what can be done with these panels if they're not biodegradable, I know. So I would like to have an answer to those problems there. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Futrell. Our next speaker is Nick Hannon, who identifies his address as the Cherry Grove community.
Morning, Board. My name is Nick Hannon. I am 133 Cherry Grove Drive. I am on the HOA board, and I will be speaking on behalf of the community. So I can say that initially when this first came out, this became an issue pretty well known within our community as well. We live in the lower southeast side of where this development will occur. A vast majority of the homes do border the farmland that was there, and I can tell you right now the residents were not expecting to be viewing solar panels going forward. Our stance on this, I would say, has drastically changed, at least in my viewpoint and what I've expressed to the rest of the community. Reason for this being agriculture has always been an inherent part of Onslow County and within the country in itself. It is a dying industry, and that's unarguable. And going forward, unfortunately, the position that these property owners are in is transitioning the use of this land, and ultimately it's private property. The development of this is going to aid this family for the next 40 years and their generations to come as well, and eventually, hopefully, when the solar panels do come out, it will be turned back into agriculture and continue on to their generations of family for that usage. So the position now, at least from what I'm speaking, is that I believe this should go forward as a project because it is supporting a family, and a family that has worked hard to maintain their land, and it's their right to make that decision. As far as with the Shady Grove development, they've worked extremely well with the community going forward. Every concern as far as radiation and any other health hazards that I've gone through, they've sat down in various meetings to express the side effects that really aren't there, and they've taken even further steps to go forward with that. So they've moved those inverters even further away from the properties to ensure that they are within a even further distance, so there is no potential side effects there. Looking at planning maps and going forward with the potential sale of homes within the community, they've also sat down and said, okay, we can shift quite a few of these inverters or the panels or what this is going to look like to try to help protect a little bit more the mindset that is there from somebody that is not understanding of what solar is and what those projects look like, to help protect the property owners, the current property owners, for those future sales. Additionally, they have gone forward even further with increasing that buffer zone, the vegetative buffer zone, and that was on request of the community in itself. That increase within that buffer zone is going to aid in protecting the view and the natural view of what everybody moved into that neighborhood for. And so what the community will see, even from a second story, I would say arguably 95% of what we will see is going to be vegetative buffer zone. And within that community, you won't see any of those solar panels, except for at a very far distance, which helps give the idea of offset there. I believe that Shady Grove Solar has set the standard of what all solar companies coming into Onslow County that do want to develop. That is the use of private land. That helps decrease the amount of land within Onslow County that is public, that is not being used for solar, to allow for other uses for the public. Additionally, they've set the standards of community outreach and what a company coming in that is going to develop, although it is private, they have taken into consideration all citizens that are within that zone that will be affected either by view or physically from this development. So just going forward, I ask that you consider this as you look at it differently. This is a private ownership attempting to rezone to take care of their family and their future generations. It is not a rezoning of public land in which you would have to view that differently and what that would look like for all people of the community and not a single family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. Our next speaker is Mr. Colin Tarrant, 310 North Front Street, Wilmington, North Carolina.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. My name is Colin Tarrant. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Block, Crouch, and Keeter in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm working with the applicant as their legal counsel as it pertains to this application before you. As you've heard, the applicant has worked hard to reach out to the community and has held various public meetings with members of the surrounding area, as well as you've just heard, the neighboring homeowners association to address their concerns specifically. You'll see in your application the notes that include the details of that meeting, the folks who were able to attend that meeting, and some of the questions that were specifically responded to at that meeting, as well as what you've also heard today. I believe also here with us on behalf of the applicant is Mr. Chris Sandifer. I don't know if he made the list because he came in just a little bit late, but Mr. Sandifer is a professional engineer licensed here in North Carolina who could answer any specific questions that any member of the board may have as to health and safety or the electric workings of the panels themselves or anything of more of a technical nature that you haven't heard from as far as the other members of the team. To sum up, I believe it's clear that the applicant has met the criteria set out in the ordinance and that the application for the conditional rezoning district is consistent with both the ordinance itself as well as the future land use plan. We respectfully request that the board adopt the unanimous recommendation of the planning board and that they approve this application before you. I'm available, as well as anyone else from the applicant's team, to answer any questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tarrant. The final speaker that signed up for this public hearing, I can't read the signature that's on here. I believe it says J. Jarrett, 210 Cherry Blossom Drive in Richlands.
My name's Jay Jacobson, and I live at 210 Cherry Blossom Drive in Richlands, North Carolina. I'm part of the Cherry Grove subdivision. I would just like to say that I've been very impressed with the way the company does business. I wasn't involved in the negotiations or anything, but I'm very pleased with them. I think it'll be an asset, actually, to the community. Because it's cutting out crop dusting. And, you know, at times, you know, the air gets thick with pesticides and stuff like that. So that's all going to be eliminated, pretty much, I should say. You know, so it'll create a better environment for the kids in the community and the people. And I've just been very impressed with the company. They answer all your questions. They don't hesitate. If they need to find out an answer to your question, they will go do it. So that's pretty much all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson, and sorry about messing up your name. Okay, I'll make one call to the audience. If there's anyone else that would like to speak in the Shady Grove conditional rezoning, if you would approach the microphone at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing this, Chairman Board. My name is Chris Sandifer. I am a licensed electrical engineer in North Carolina and multiple other states. Have a lot of qualifications. I'm an electrical contractor with unlimited classification. I have multiple FCC licenses. If you want to talk about EMF, I'm more than happy to talk about that. I'm a farmer. I hold license to put out pesticides. I can handle that. What I would like to say is I own 100 acres that are under panels that I plan to leave to my family. So these are crystalline silicon panels. They're made up of the three most common elements found on the earth, silicon, oxygen, and aluminum. And that's what makes up these panels. There are no toxic substance inside these panels that can leach out. The only chemical or substance in them is about 7 or 8 grams lead that is bound in the solder that is used to make the connections, which is far less lead that you would find in a shotgun shell. If they ever had a dove hunt out there, one shotgun shell would be equivalent to hundreds of pounds. And these panels are sealed. There's nothing that can leach out of them. So I just wanted to state that, in my professional opinion, this installation will not materially endanger the citizens of Onslow County whatsoever. It's in harmony with the surrounding community. The impact is less than one single-family dwelling for its traffic. Once it's installed, it's very low impact. It's easily convertible back to farmland at the end of the tenure if that's what the property owner desires. So I'm here to answer any questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Would you repeat for our clerk your name and address? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. It's Chris Sandifer. It's 3118 Green Road, Spring Hope, North Carolina. It's in Nash County, where I also serve on the planning board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you. I'll make one final call to the audience. Yes, sir.
My name is Randy Rayner, 174 Foy-Lockamy Road, Jacksonville. I didn't really come prepared for this, but I want to come at this from a different perspective as a taxpayer. It costs more to generate electricity with solar and wind than it does natural gas and coal. And so the taxpayers pay for it twice. The taxpayer pays for it when he gets his electric bill. Then he pays for it again when the government subsidizes. And so, you know, they're getting screwed through the whole process. And the whole country is like that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing for the Shady Grove conditional rezoning, and it is now available for the Board of Commissioners to discuss and consider.
Mr. Chairman, just briefly, this is a kind of a different rezoning in that it's not from like highway business to RA. So if the board is inclined to adopt this with the conditions recommended by staff, what I would ask the board to do after it has all its questions answered is just to defer the ultimate decision until your March 6th meeting. And that will give us time to go ahead and memorialize the conditions that this board would like to have, and then have the property owner sign off. By statute, that's a requirement for conditional rezoning, is the property owners acquiesce. We anticipate that they will acquiesce, but I would like to have their signatures before ultimate approval. So just to be clear, if you're inclined to go forward with this project, then I would ask that you defer it to March 6th. If you're not inclined to go forward with it, a decision can be made today. Obviously, if you're going to decline it, then we don't need to have the memorialization of all the conditions and the property owners to sign off. But that would be the request from staff.
Can we ask some questions right now, though?
Oh, absolutely. I think so. Yes, sir.
I'd like to have Carter come back up. Hot seat, buddy, hot seat. The question I have is, I know that it seems like that this company has done a lot of due diligence and they've done a lot of talking with Cherry Grove and everything. There's only one question I have, and somebody's going to have to answer it for me before I move forward. They're talking about decommissioning in 30 years. My understanding is that this stuff cannot go to our landfill. Is that correct?
So I would say, sir, that I would defer to the applicant in their proposed decommissioning plan. They named a number of sites as well as different materials going to those different sites. So I defer the applicant to speak to that because they would be in control of the decommissioning of the site at that time.
And that's a question I know that all the commissioners have, because we're really concerned, because we were told time and time again that it cannot go in our landfill.
And if that's a condition of the board, that's certainly something that we could add in to the conditional rezoning process. So if that's a condition the board wants, we could memorialize that and check with the applicant with whether they're able to actually agree with that, and the property owners agree as well.
I really don't have a problem with the solar farm at all. My concern is the decommission is what's my problem is. And the citizens are going to ask, and I'm not going to be here probably in 30 years. I hope I am, but my grandchildren and my children will be here.
So maybe,
Yes.
maybe you can answer this. I read the decommissioning plan, and I don't remember, is there a bond? Or they have to be bonded to be sure, to assure the decommissioning?
No, sir. There's no required bond per our zoning ordinance. What is required is before the final inspection from our office, signing off on the plan, the decommissioning plan must be recorded with the Register of Deeds so that they are certifying that that is the plan they would carry out.
I believe that gentleman there wants to
Yeah,
step
one of
up.
my concerns is, if they go bust in a few years, then how do we get the thing cleaned up?
Yeah, I'm happy to take those questions. So the county, and we're fine, I'll say it first and foremost, we're fine entering into a bond with the county. We do that across numerous counties in the state, and it's worked fine. So that's one way that we can help protect the county, and we're fine putting a condition on that as part of the approval process. And two is that as part of our lease agreements with the landowners, we have a separate section in there that holds the project accountable for any decommissioning. And so really the county is protected on those two layers, one by the surety bond that we're willing to enter into, the decommissioning bond we're willing to enter into, and then two by the legal document that the landowners have. So there's kind of those two methods of protection. After 40 years, when it's done producing energy, they can come in, take out those equipments out, and if our company for some reason isn't around, then they can rely on the bond and the site control agreement because those will still be in place. As far as the panels, Chris Sandifer can speak a little bit further to this, but we do know that they are, you can put them in landfills, essentially is the gist of it. These aren't toxic, anything like that. If they've been looked at by the EPA and signed off, and they can be put into landfills.
So a question, I guess, tagging on what you're saying though, so, and it's maybe not a question for you, so I'm sorry. If it can be put into the landfill, do we have the capacity here, and what's going to be the expense of that in the future? Because I don't want to pass a expense down that we're not ready
Sure.
to, and as a situation where we can't take it.
Yeah, it's tough to say because we don't know what those landfill statuses will be in 40 years.
Right, that's what I was saying. It might be a county
Ms.
issue.
Ward may be able to answer that one for us.
I think Ben wants to answer that question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, Commissioners, I can only speak to the capacity that we have in the existing landfill, but the existing landfill that we have in operation right now, with the remaining phases, we have about 25 years of capacity remaining. And that is 25 years of capacity based off of the materials that we currently receive, the tonnage that we currently receive. That's not really contemplating additional large-scale projects such as this. So that would definitely impact the overall capacity and the lifespan of the landfill. Like I said, right now, 25 years is where we're at. So if we're looking at a project that's got a decommissioning in 30 or 35 years, we really don't know at that point what our next option will be.
Do we have an option? I'm sorry. Do we have an option to turn down this material in 35 years if we need to? Or do we have to accept this stuff into the landfill?
That could certainly be a condition of the approval, is some type of alternate disposal method. I'm not sure exactly what that would be at this point.
I think Mr. DeSalms had mentioned that if that was part of the conditions, then that would be presented.
That's right. We could include that in the decommissioning plan as to where this would go. And the applicant may be able to speak as to whether they have alternate areas in which they could dispose of it, but I think it could be a condition as far as we're concerned on a county basis.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll bring up as well is that, it's beneficial for us to recycle these because there is salvage value. It's actually the salvage value of the materials is more expensive than the actual cost to deconstruct the project. Because there's copper, there's aluminum, and there's glass, which isn't that valuable. But there will be incentive for a decommissioning company to come in, take these out, and sell the salvage value of the materials. And so, we don't plan to put everything into landfill. We're going to try and recycle to get money out of it for the salvage value, first and foremost. And anything that cannot be recycled and traded in will be put to landfills. This isn't necessarily just Onslow County. It could go to surrounding counties as well. So we're happy to work with staff and any kind of recommended proposal for that.
So I think what you're saying is, and Brent helped me out here, I think if we put it in the with the policy that we set and everything else, that if our landfill is not eligible to take this stuff, they'd have to find someplace else to go at that particular time and year whenever the decommission comes.
That's correct. We could put that as a condition. Yes, sir.
I got a couple of comments real quick, and I don't mean to be very candid, but okay, number one, I'm not really sold on solar farms. I'm not saying I'm not sold on solar farms. Apparently, you did your homework. You brought your whole team up here with two, including an attorney, a couple of experts. I listened intently. I think what we're failing to realize is that we also had a couple of citizens come up here, and that's who I represent, are the citizens, and they voiced their concerns, and they're kind of getting overlooked right now as to what their concerns are. But I think their concerns are very important. The gentleman back there, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, but I appreciate you, some of the comments that you made, and the other citizen. One of the concerns I have is, I agree with Commissioner Buchanan, is the long-term effects of recycling or getting rid of this or cleaning it up so it doesn't leave any hazardous materials whatsoever on the land, so to speak. And I'm all about solar power, so to speak. I'm all about technology and trying to conserve money or energy or whatever it might be, but I do have a lot of questions in my head, and I've been reading about it. I've been reading about it for the last couple of weeks, and I'm still scratching my head. I am concerned about the radiation. I know you've assured me as an expert there's very minimal leakage, but I'm concerned because you made a comment, somebody made a comment that, you know, if it wants to go back to rural agriculture, back to farmland, it can be converted back to that, but not necessarily true in my opinion, because how do we guarantee contamination of that particular soil? How do we guarantee contamination with the trees and things like that that are in and around that? Is that land going to be reused as agriculture? These are questions that I have. And I paid attention to you, sir, back there, some of the comments you made, which were thoroughly researched. And I saw a couple of people saying no because you're the experts, and I get that. But that's the biggest concern I have is, can it be reused? Are we going to just take it into our landfill? Does it have to be specialized? Has to be destroyed, you know, in a specific manner to ensure no contamination of the land? You know, there's a lot of questions here. And like Commissioner Buchanan said, I'm not going to be here in 25 years. I hope to see a couple more grandkids, but, you know, those are concerns that I have, and I've got to listen to the constituents that came up to speak and listen to their concerns. But you guys did a thorough job, don't get me wrong. Obviously you did. You researched it, you got your experts. That's really good. But like I said, I'm still kind of up in the air, and I appreciate you doing what you're doing for some conditions in the future for the next board meeting. Give us a chance to think about it and research on our own as commissioners, you know, the pros and cons of a solar farm. It's not that easy as far as I'm concerned. You know, I mean, solar technology is a great thing, but there are some inherent risks with it as well, just like anything else. And I just need more facts and time to research it more thoroughly. But thank you. I appreciate
Chairman,
you guys coming up.
I do have a question. Ben, or sir, if you'd come back up. As we sit here today, does the state of North Carolina have a policy in place for disposal of hazardous waste material from any solar farm at all?
Commissioner, I'm not aware of any special requirements or any guidance that's been handed down from the state on solar panels.
So they're giving us guidance on setting up the solar farms for future endeavors. And you heard today that they say we can. Ultimately, the state of North Carolina is going to be coming down and saying you can or you can't. And 30 years is a long time. My question is, this family, and I know the family personally, I have nothing against what they do to their land. But to put future taxpayers' dollars into disposal of their profits, I have an issue with that. And it should be covered. We should have our citizens covered. This is their endeavor. I'm not sold completely on what we're talking about because we don't know for sure. Commissioner Buchanan, the rest of us, we have looked at this. We have read what y'all have given us. And I'm extremely concerned about the future cost and what it's going to do to our landfill and our surrounding landfills. We're in the process of having permitting now to expand ours.
I'm going to make a motion to approve it. I'm going to make a motion.
Yeah, and Commissioner Scott, as part of the conditions, as I understand this board so far from what I've heard, is the materials would be prohibited from being deposited in our landfill without the consent of the county at that time. And I think that would address what Commissioner Buchanan and Commissioner Carpenter's point is the capacity. And it would also address your issue as far as, are we going to be allowed to deposit those? So that's something that we can work with the applicant on if that's the board's desire.
What I would do at this particular time, I would make a motion with stipulations. And the two stipulations, the bond, and the other stipulations are landfill.
Yes, sir.
I would make that motion to approve.
To defer it to March 6th?
To approve.
With those stipulations.
With those stipulations.
Right.
You said if we approved it, we go forward to March 6th.
Okay, then we'll memorialize it. So we'll actually, if you're, for your motion, if you'll just give me direction, and then what I'll do between now and March 6th is actually memorialize.
So you want direction instead of a motion?
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
I move forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I do have one more question.
I do too.
And this is for Ben. We're doing a conditional rezoning on 1,000 acres, but they're only going to use 500 for panels. So if they decided to do something with that other 500 acres, that has to come back to us for some kind of approval? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The site plan that's been proposed is part of the rezoning itself. So if there's a modification to the site plan, it would need to come back for those types of modifications and the board approval.
I have a question about something that nobody's really touched on at all, and I'm assuming, but you know what they say about that word, that it's a non-issue, but I still would like to have an answer for it publicly. I haven't heard Chris White say anything about this yet, so I'm thinking that maybe the airport is a non-issue, but the proximity of the solar farm to the airport and our focus on expanding that airport right now for a lot of things that we have economically important to all the citizens of Onslow County right now does concern me. So with the future plans of the airport and the growth and expansion, are we limiting ourselves, Chris? Okay.
Yeah, we've worked closely with Chris because of this
Okay.
issue. Yeah,
Oh, it was kind of glazed over, so I just would like a little bit more information.
No,
Thank
and
you.
we've have FAA clearance, and we've worked with Chris because of the proximity to the airport, and there's no concern, and staff recommended language as a condition of approval that we work with the airport if there is any issues,
Okay.
and we're good with that.
Thank you.
And before we move to this, Mr. DeSelms, do we need to have that vote for this, or can it be moved to March 6th with you working out the conditions, whether we approve
Just
or
a
not?
motion to defer if you're inclined, and it sounds like this isn't a final decision, of course.
Right.
You're going to have to see it in writing and approve it at the next meeting. But if you're inclined to go forward with this, or at least consider it further, to defer it to March 6th. So the motion would be a motion to defer decision to March 6th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes to defer this to March 6th.
Yes, sir. And in the interim, we'll work with the applicant in memorializing everything that went on today, and then have a final document presented before the board on March 6th.
At the same time, Nelson had quite a few questions. I don't know if those were answered or not in reference to phones, internet, TV. And I know they mentioned runoff, but there may be some more questions on that coming too.
As long as we're not going to see balloons being launched, we'll be okay.
So that being said, I think we've got quite a few that have requested that we take a break at this time. We wanted to get the second hearing underway, but we've got to move into a break right now. So
A 10-minute?
we'll take a 10-minute break.
10-minute break?
Wonder why.
Hey, I didn't say
Meeting is back in session this time, and we're moving back to Ms. Griffin for our next public hearing.
Thank you, Chairman Foster and Commissioners. We're going to jump right back into our public hearings. Our second public hearing is the Venters rezoning, PREZ-2022-00017, and I will turn it over to Assistant County Manager Ben Warren, who is actually going to provide the staff background on this one.
All right, well, good afternoon, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. The second rezoning request that you have before you this afternoon is to zone property from rural agricultural to highway business. The property owner is Mr. George Venters Sr., and the property is formally identified as parcel 34-129.2. It's located at 225 Albert Ellis Airport Road and consists of approximately 28.78 acres. The existing uses on the property at this time are religious institution and forest land. There is water and wastewater provided to the site by UNWASA. Fire service is provided by Black Swamp Fire District with an ISO rating of 4. And the closest road that we have NCDOT traffic numbers is Catherine Lake Road. The 2019 average annual daily traffic count is 6,700 vehicles per day, and the carrying capacity is 19,200. So in looking at the property and the surrounding zoning, you can see the property to the north consists of the Albert J. Ellis Airport. That parcel is zoned highway business. The remainder of the property in this portion of the county is primarily zoned RA with a little bit of R15 and some other residential zoning districts to the east. And you can see on the east along Catherine Lake Road just some small parcels in that light blue, and that is some community business. In comparing the two zoning districts, the existing zoning being rural agricultural requires a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet and is primarily intended for low density single-family residential and some very limited commercial type uses, as opposed to the requested zoning of highway business, which has no minimum lot size and is primarily intended for regional scale commercial uses. Being that this is a straight rezoning request, any use that's allowed in the highway business district could be considered as a potential use for this property if it were to be approved. In looking at the comprehensive plan for the future land use recommends rural residential, and this category is primarily intended to preserve undeveloped or sparsely developed lands not classified as agricultural or forestry. And here's our future land use map. You can see this purple color is the rural residential. To the north, on the north side of Catherine Lake Road, we have some agricultural forestry recommended land use. And so looking at the comprehensive plan and the recommendations in that plan and how they apply to this requested rezoning, there are a couple of different policies to look at. And if you're to consider the rezoning request to be reasonable, that can be based upon policy number P37, which reads, Onslow County supports a wide range of shopping choices and services. The proposed rezoning could also be considered unreasonable because of the potential for incompatible land uses adjacent to the airport with increased traffic and potential impacts on future grant funding for the airport. And also there are a number of policies in the comprehensive plan that do not support the rezoning. And you can see there are 6 policies there. Just to kind of summarize those policies, basically what they refer to is avoiding strip commercialization along our highways and trying to center highway business along commercial nodes at major intersections. The planning board did make a unanimous recommendation for approval of this, recommended denial of this request. There were a couple of reasons for that. One of those being at the time that it was presented to the planning board, there was a potential for split zoning. Since that time, the property has been subdivided, so that is no longer an issue. But there are also concerns with the land use plan recommendations as well as potential impacts on the airport. And I will turn this back over to Ms. Griffin for the public hearing.
Thank you so much, Ben. And at this time, I will open the public hearing. We have 2 citizens who have signed up at this time to speak. I will call on our first speaker. Again, you have exactly 5 minutes, and our commissioners will not be fielding questions during this portion of the public hearing. Mr. Patrick Farmer of 212 Farmers Lane in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Patrick Farmer, 212 Farmers Lane, Jacksonville, 28540. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners, as a member of the Onslow County Airport Advisory Board, I am concerned about any encroachment on the airport that would adversely affect one of this county's greatest assets. A recent study by the North Carolina Division of Aviation shows Albert J. Ellis Airport supports 3,410 jobs, $36 million in tax revenue, $707 million in economic impact, and $229 million in personal income. We now have a modern new terminal for commercial aviation, an air traffic control tower for safety, and a new executive terminal for private aircraft. This rezoning could create an adverse image of this airport. This airport is the front door to Onslow County that many folks see for the first time. Imagine the parents of a young Marine or sailor here to visit their loved one, was stationed at Camp Lejeune or New River, and the first thing they see after departing the terminal is a strip mall with vape shops, tattoo parlors, pawn shops, etc. This rezoning would allow that. Safety and congestion are other issues. Do we want a congested area of retail shops adjacent to our runways? Or worse yet, multifamily housing, which is permitted under highway business zoning. Also, the entrance to the airport has a single roadway designed in 1970. It is not sized to support additional traffic. Excuse me here. It's not sized for additional traffic that is not airport related. The 60-foot right-of-way limits additional widening that more construction would require. Utilities in the area are also reaching capacity now without additional expansion. Finally, OAJ is expected to grow proportionately to the county's growth. We need to protect and also plan for the future of this great asset. Thank you for your time and listening on this, and I hope will see clear to deny this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Our second speaker today will be Mr. George Venters of 3825 Barnett Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Good afternoon. My name is George Venters, Jr., 3825 Barrett Drive in Raleigh. I'm representing the property owner, who's my father, George Venters, Sr. Since 2004, I've owned and operated a commercial real estate development company based in Raleigh called Vanguard Property Group. Our family currently owns over 1,000 acres bordering the airport on the north and south side. The tract to the north side consists of about 193 acres that's currently used for agricultural purposes. The tract to the south side of the airport consists of 942 acres that is currently in timber and various other governmental management practices. The southern portion of the property has only two access points, both located on Albert Ellis Road. Prior to 1969, the majority of the property that the airport is now situated on was contiguous with these two tracts, and it was owned by my grandfather, Wayne Victor Venters. On about 1969 or 1970, the property was acquired by Onslow County through an eminent domain process to build the airport. Since that time, we have accessed our southern portion of the property only through Albert Ellis Airport Road. Throughout the years, we have cooperated with the airport, granting temporary construction easements to allow for parking and road expansions, security fence installations, and other various requests. We've been a very peaceful neighbor to Albert Ellis Airport for a long time. We have witnessed the ebbs and flows of the airport from being a sleepy county airport with little activity to steadily growing transit center with increased commuter traffic. We were confident that one day the airport would grow in activity, and our intention always was to make land available for commercial development along Albert Ellis Airport Road to accommodate users that would need space near the airport facility. We currently own a commercial building located on the tract that we are seeking to rezone. Over the years, the building has been used by various tenants, such as cargo company doing business with the airport. It is currently leased to a church. Years ago, we cleared the adjacent lot for future development purposes. Our rezoning exhibit, which I don't know if we have, but shows two tracts, A and B. A is the 28.878 acres that we are seeking to rezone. In 2019, Tract B, which is the 191 acres directly behind the rezoning tract, was deeded in a conservation easement in favor of the Working Lands Trust. One requirement of the conservation easement was to provide the Working Lands Trust with access to inspect the property. The sole access to this conservation easement is through recorded easements that we have to Albert Ellis Road. Tract A, which is our rezoning tract, was what we held out of the conservation easement specifically for future development. Onslow County has now been granted the $29 million grant to expand the airport. In order for the airport to grow and expand, it needs to lengthen the runway to accommodate larger planes, which potentially will allow it to become a hub for cargo companies such as UPS or FedEx. The intention of this rezoning was to allow for a commercial development that will offer office, flex, and warehousing options to complement the airport's expansion efforts. Right now, there are no opportunities for potential users to complement the airport's growth to lease space in the immediate area. We have done preliminary layouts that show that the tract could accommodate, in total, approximately 100,000 square feet in multiple single-story buildings to accommodate tenants that would seek to do business with the airport. We are aware of the airport's objectives and have seen their proposed master plan. While the airport has their proposed plans, we too have been working on a master plan for our 942-acre southern tract for several decades. These improvements include road systems, drainage features, ditching, and permanent structures. To date, all of these are in place at the cost of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to our family. In 2018, the airport land use plan called for relocating Albert Ellis Airport through the road through the property that we seek to rezone. It also notes that the majority of this tract will be set aside for future industrial use, which is very similar to the proposal that we are making.
Thank you so much, Mr. Venters.
Well, I will submit the rest of my proposal.
At this time, I'll make one call to the audience. Would anyone else like to speak regarding the Venters rezoning? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and is now available for the Board of Commissioners to discuss and consider.
Motion to deny.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I hate to tell somebody they can't do what they want to with their land, but we just can't do this to the airport. Is there a way to assure that the development on that tract is appropriate for the airport?
This is a straight rezoning request as compared to what we had before, a conditional rezoning request. So in a straight rezoning request, any of the permitted uses they would be able to use.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Ms. Griffin, we'll move on to item 6.
Yes, sir. Chairman Foster and Commissioners, we are now to the opioid settlement fund spending authorization, and Assistant County Manager Sherry Slater is going to present this for us.
Good afternoon, Chairman Foster, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. I have before you today the opioid settlement fund spending authorization resolution. In 2021, this board passed a resolution regarding the opioid settlement funds. As a part of that, this required funding plan was required. Resolution 23002 is a memorandum of agreement outlining how the funds are going to be spent in Onslow County. We were allowed to choose from different services that could be offered as a part of the plan. A group of stakeholders met, reviewed data, and made recommendations about the services needed in our community. This resolution outlines services that will be funded as a part of the strategic plan for the opioid spending. It would allow funding for a contract for evidence-based treatment services and expand the post-overdose response team during this fiscal year. It would also allow the county to continue working on the strategic planning by reclassifying a currently vacant position to a mental health program manager that would then be able to manage the funding, the programs associated with it, as well as the other grant funds that Onslow County has brought in. You do have in your packet a letter of support from the Consolidated Human Services Board to this spending plan. I would also point out this is $10,587,000 and some change in opioid funding that will come to the county through 2038. In addition to that, in the last 5 years, we have received over $5.8 million in grant funds to support mental health services in our community. So while the county does not have a Department of Mental Health anymore, we still are working diligently to bring funding into our community in order to shore up the services that we feel like are perhaps not there from other providers or avenues. So we do have quite a lot going on between the $10.5 million in opioid funds and the almost $6 million we've received through justice grants for things such as the medication-assisted treatment in the detention center, the Veterans Treatment Court that we have just begun, which I understand is going to have its first court date next month, so that's very exciting, as well as the software that we purchased so that our first responders could see details about the mental health citizens that they encounter and how to best respond to them. So we have a lot going on in Onslow County regarding our opioid issue as well as other mental health, and we'd like to see this funding plan help shore that up some more. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but I'd respectfully request that you all approve Resolution 23002, the opioid spending authorization resolution.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Sherry, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I know this addresses the prevention side, or not the prevention, but the treatment side. And I know there's another leg, or a couple of legs with prevention and enforcement. Are there funds available on the enforcement side of the approach here to dealing with the problem?
So you're speaking specifically regarding like a law enforcement response?
Yeah, for law enforcement response.
Okay. The original opioid settlement resolution that you all agreed to in 2021 included two options that we could use in order to determine how to spend the funds. Option A, or Exhibit A, as a part of that plan, which you do have in your packets, gave the county a list of approved services that we could choose from. Option B had a more exhaustive list that required that the county first start with a needs assessment and then move through a longer strategic planning process. Those things would have taken a good bit of the funding to accomplish the needs assessment and the strategic planning as those were written. We determined as a county to go forward with option A, or Exhibit A of that plan, which does not allow for any law enforcement funds. Option B does allow for some programs that would involve law enforcement, but they're more in the response that is not geared toward taking criminals to court, but more toward addressing the treatment or getting folks into the proper treatment. Things like the LEAD program and the other acronyms are not coming to mind right now, but those are diversion programs for folks who are in need of mental health treatment or substance abuse treatment. So they're not just to put like additional deputies on the road. They would have to be directly connected to a diversion program. And it would require the county to regroup and go through the option B process, which is a longer process. Does that answer your question?
There were some new funds that were going to be coming in to address opioids as well, in addition to these, right? Isn't there another set of funds? Would they have an enforcement component to them?
So my understanding, we've not seen the exact funds yet on that, but my understanding of those funds is that they will follow the MOU that you all already agreed to. So again, if the commissioners choose at that time to ask staff to go back and reorganize and not follow the process that we did, then we could look at what options are available. What I have to say, though, is that we don't know what those would be because they'd have to be based on the needs assessment. So whether or not we'd actually be able to use those funds for law enforcement would depend on what the needs assessment showed.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Yes, sir, and I have the next item as well, if you will. As a part of the funding plan that you just authorized, one of the items that the SOAR committee, which is the committee that did review all of the statistics and data to come up with the plan, the SOAR committee recommended long-term care treatment as one of the things that we address with the opioid funds. So the contract before you is for the Healing Place of New Hanover County. It's an evidence-based program that will provide detox and long-term residential services to adults. This contract would ensure 10 beds for Onslow County citizens at the Healing Place, and they would be paid on an as-used basis. So what you have before you is a contract that would take us through the end of this fiscal year. You'll see hopefully one for next fiscal year as we move into the budget process, and it would be for an amount not to exceed $100,375. I would respectfully request that the board consider approval of the the contract with the Healing Place of New Hanover County in the amount of $100,375 and authorize the chairman to sign on behalf of the county. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Were there no, did this go out for bid?
No, sir, we do not have any long-term care beds in Onslow County, and the closest one we have is in Wake County, which is Healing Transitions. It's a sister program to this. So what this would do would be to provide beds closer so that if our law enforcement or staff are having to transport, they can get there a whole lot quicker, but also just our citizens in general can get there easier and more quickly. We have a decided lack of long-term care beds.
So there's no place in Onslow County that could accommodate this?
Not for uninsured. I know that we have Bryn Mawr Hospital that probably has some beds, but they don't have the capacity.
So those 10 beds, are they reserved for us, or is there a time that we might would need a bed and they're at capacity?
They do have 400 beds, I believe, 200 female and 200 male. So there is a lot of opportunity for folks to go in. The other thing is this is a 6 to 9 month program, and there are more beds in the beginning than there are in the end, because sometimes folks don't stick with it through the very end. So they're not holding them empty if someone needs them, but they do. The way that their system works in Wake County as well as in Louisville, Kentucky, which is where this program was first instituted, is that it's a pretty fast-moving program for people to be able to get in. If there's not a bed today, there's usually one fairly quickly. And we would also use this as a transition from our crisis center. So they would have some capability to hold them an extra few days, perhaps, until they could get into the treatment center.
My understanding, too, is Bryn Mawr does not do substance abuse.
Okay, I couldn't respond to that. Thank you.
They only focus in on mental health. They don't have any substance abuse counselors or people qualified to, and they're not in that particular part of the business.
Got it.
They're all in mental health.
Any further
These
discussion?
folks that need a bed, are they usually people who've already gone through outpatient kind of, group therapy and working with somebody one-on-one, and they've just reached the point where, hey, this is the final thing that we can do, or how is that? How does the process of putting those folks into slots, how does that work?
So the answer is yes. Most of the time, they've been through many levels before folks will sign up for. You can imagine it's hard to talk someone who needs help into going to a crisis center, which is several days. Talking them into committing to a 9-month program is very difficult. So generally, it is folks who have tried many different things to address their addiction and have not been successful. And this is the place where they finally sign up and commit sort of to the long haul. Again, they don't all stay. We know that, and that's okay. We do what we can. Hopefully we'll get them back and get them the second time or the next time around. But I should say they. I don't do it. But the healing place. So most of the folks who will be recommended or referred to the healing place would be folks that have gone through many different types of outpatient treatments, as well as community meetings such as AA or NA. Folks have tried and exhausted those things and need something more substantial in order to be successful.
Great. With no further discussion, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Ms. Griffin?
Chairman Foster, next we have Clay Calhoun, who is going to present the Shred-a-thon grant.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. A couple of months ago, Onslow County Senior Service was notified of an opportunity for identity theft and fraud prevention for our seniors. And so we put in for the grant, and I'm pleased to announce that we have become an award recipient. We've done this in the past before, and so we plan on doing this after the tax date when everybody has all their identity. So we want to make sure we can protect our seniors. And we got a total of $2,800 that was awarded from the North Carolina Senior Medicaid Patrol SMP program. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners approve the Shred-a-thon grant, and if approved, authorize the county manager to electronically sign the documents required for the grant.
Motion approved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do you find that a lot of our seniors are targeted as for like these scams and type of situations? Y'all provide information for them about how to avoid that or what to do in these situations and stuff like that?
Yes, sir. We actually have a presentation that we're going to have at this event that's coming from the North Carolina Department of Insurance. So she's going to come down and actually present to the seniors. And I can say I was targeted. And so I lost my identity at once and had to take care of that as well. And so I plan on providing that information to our seniors as well, how to recover from that.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Griffin?
Thank you, Chairman Foster. Sheriff Chris Thomas will bring the next 4 items before the board.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. The Onslow County Sheriff's Office is awarding a grant for $17,291 from the United States Department of Justice Justice Assistance Grant. The board approved the grant November 21, 2022. The U.S. Department of Justice requires certification and assurances documents to confirm that the county commits to the utilization of the grant in accordance with the applicable laws and procedures. I respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners authorize the chairman to sign the certification and assurances by the chief executive of the applicant government form.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
I believe I'm next as well.
You're next.
The North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services COVID-19 support for county confinement. The Onslow County Sheriff's Office was awarded a grant for $99,201.80 by the North Carolina Department of Human and Health Services.
Funds are allotted to county confinement facilities across the state based on bed capacity. Funds are required to be provided for personal protective equipment to staff and inmates and technology designed to educate staff and inmates on proper procedures to protect against COVID-19. The grant is for 2 years. There is no matching funds required. I respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners approve the grant and authorize the county manager to sign the grant contract on behalf of the county and authorize the county, the chairman to sign all the necessary grant documents.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Chris, I know there was a lot of concern whenever COVID first broke out that this would, affect detention facilities across the state, and it wasn't as big a problem as they anticipated. But do you still hear from your colleagues across the state that that's a problem that they're dealing with, or I haven't heard of any problem in Onslow, but how do you assess that statewide?
COVID still pops up occasionally. We've had some recent cases in the detention center, but we have standards or procedures set up to isolate those individuals until they're cleared before they're put into the general population. So we have been able to stay ahead of it, kind of. We monitor for it coming in. It's also, the additional monitors also cut down on our flu cases as well. But we do run across it. I don't hear a big uptick across the state as far as the confinement facilities, but there are still random cases.
So it's just been a handful. It hasn't been.
Yes, sir. Just a handful. And even during the main part of the so-called epidemic, we had just a handful.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Continue on, Sheriff.
I believe I'm next again. Governor's Crime Commission Crisis Intervention Training Grant. The Onslow County Sheriff's Office is constantly adapting to the challenging demands of law enforcement. In the area of mental health, the Sheriff's Office has worked tirelessly to be on the cutting edge of technology and provide services to individuals in crisis. With partnerships with the Jacksonville Police Department, Onslow Memorial Hospital, the Ditch Crisis Center, Onslow County Sheriff's Office has strengthened its resolve to make mental health response a priority. We have committed to the training of 100% of our deputies to crisis intervention training, commonly referred to as CIT. We have trained 84 deputies and have approximately 80 deputies needed to be trained in CRT. We're seeking funds to provide the overtime cost. The Sheriff's Office has responded to over 2,500 mental health calls over the last 3 years, experiencing a near 10% increase in mental health calls since 2019. Funds provided by the grant will be used to reimburse overtime costs related to covering the shifts and other duties in order to send the deputies to the CIT training. Funds were provided in the amount of $75,000 each year for 2 years. Funds do not require a match. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners approve the grant and authorize the county manager and county finance director to electronically sign the documents required for the grant.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Sheriff Thomas,
Can I
don't
go
get to
again?
sit down yet. We're going to go one more time.
The 2022 Onslow County Sheriff's Office Block Grant. The Sheriff's Office was awarded $24,500 from the North Carolina Governor's Crime Commission. The Sheriff's Office will use these funds to purchase bullet-resistant plates for ballistic-resistant vests and to equip deputies in the field with driver's license scanners. The vests are rated to protect deputies during high-risk search warrants, barricaded suspects, arrest warrants, and other active shooter scenarios. The driver's license scanners will allow the deputies to scan the back of a driver's license directly into our RMS system, into the electronic warrant repository and electronic citation system. This direct input will ensure deputies are recording accurate information. That the information will be provided on reports and court documents. The award requires no matching funds by any agency or the county. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners approve the grant, authorize the county manager and the county finance director to electronically sign the documents required for the grant.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Ms. Griffin?
Yes, Chairman Foster, our next item Our next two items are going to be with Kevin Turner, our tax assessor, and he will be talking with you about tax liens.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Vice Chairman, Commissioners. I have two separate items for your on your agenda today. The first item is the 2022 unpaid tax for liens on real property. In accordance with North Carolina General Statute 105-369A, in February of each year, the collector must report to the governing body the total amount of unpaid taxes for the current fiscal year that are liens on real property. The total unpaid taxes for 2022 are $7,549,704.55, with a total of 7,851 bills due, and this is as of January 24th, 2023. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners approve the total unpaid taxes that are liens on real property, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Kevin, is this comparable to the same amount where we were last year at about this time, or is it increased, or?
It is. It's a little bit higher at this time this year as compared to last year, but it's nothing that I would consider unreasonably high.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Mr. Turner?
Next is the request to advertise the 2022 tax liens on real property. In accordance with the North Carolina General Statute 105-369C, the county tax collector shall advertise county tax liens by posting a notice of the liens at least one time in one or more newspapers having general circulation in the taxing unit. The tax department is requesting to advertise the unpaid taxes on March 15th, 2023 in the Jacksonville Daily News. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners approve the request to advertise the 2022 tax liens on March 15th, 2023.
Motion
I'll be happy to
approved.
answer your questions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
We're going to have to change that law. We don't have a newspaper anymore, do we?
What?
We're going to have to
Partially.
change that law.
Partially.
What do you say?
So we have to change the law on the advertising in the newspaper.
There's no newspaper on Sunday or Monday.
Online.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Turner. Ms. Griffin?
Chairman Foster, we now have our Public Health Director, Chrissy Richmond Hoover, who is going to come forward with two items on the agenda.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. The first item that I bring to you is the UNC Mid-South Lifestyle Study. The Onslow County Health Department was partnered with UNC Chapel Hill to pilot the Mid-South Lifestyle Study. This is an evidence-based and behavior change intervention that seeks to implement Mediterranean-style dietary changes that have been adapted to a Southeastern diet. What they hope to learn from this is how to implement this type of program more wide scale. So it first focused on just piloting this with healthcare facilities. And in this, we have had a health educator who will meet with individuals, hold counseling sessions. Also, we'll have technical assistance calls with the research staff at UNC. For our participation, the health department will receive a stipend of $11,500, and these funds will be used to offset costs associated with staff training, the use of the office space for program delivery, and these funds do not require any county match. Therefore, it's respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners accept the UNC Mid-South funding in the amount of $11,500 for participation in the Mid-South Lifestyle Program and allow the health department to budget these funds. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Jump the gun. Motion.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion?
I jumped the gun because I'm so excited that we're actually focusing on preventative health instead of reactionary. So, yay. That's all.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Ms. Hoover?
All righty. Next item that we have is the Breast and Cervical Cancer Control Program. Breast cancer is the second most commonly diagnosed cancer in women in the United States. The BCEP program, or the Breast and Cervical Cancer Control Program, is a program that the Health Department has delivered for the last several years. Initially, the Health Department was allocated 50 women to serve for this current fiscal year. We were able to serve all of those women within 4 months. Therefore, we requested additional targets from the North Carolina Division of Public Health. The Division of Public Health did revise our agreement addenda, extending us $13,000 additional dollars, which will allow us to serve 40 additional women. The services that we provide in this program are cervical screening and mammograms, and we do that in partnership with the Onslow Memorial Hospital. It's respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners accept this funding in the amount of $13,000 for Agreement Addenda 452-2 Breast and Cervical Cancer Control Program at the Onslow County Health Department, and authorize the county manager to sign on behalf of the county. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we get spots based on a percentage of our population, or is it past history of having a problem in this area with these particular diseases, or what?
Yep, these are state allocated dollars, and so they partner with, they extend agreement addenda to certain associations or organizations who are willing to serve this need. So Onslow County previously had targets. It was passed at some point around the county from the health department to Goshen Medical Center. Goshen Medical Center decided to stop that program, and so whenever they stopped that, the health department took it back a few years ago. There's not enough targets for these women to be served, but there is, this is a means by which you try to link low-income women that do not have an insurance coverage source to these needed services to diagnose and intervene at an earlier time for potential breast cancer. So the state has a certain pot of money that they will divvy out, but certainly being effective at utilizing all the targets that we are given will put us in a good position to be able to request additional targets in the future. Does that answer your question?
So it sounds like they do a percentage of your population, and then if you have additional ability to utilize those funds, you can petition to get more. Is that what you're saying?
What I can tell you is that not every county receives it, so I'm reluctant to say that this is population-based, because certainly every county would receive some, but not every county receives it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And I think you're sticking around for the next one.
All right. The last one that we have is the Onslow County Health Department tobacco policy. North Carolina Health Department accreditation requires that health departments prohibit the use of tobacco and tobacco products in its facility, and currently the health department does do that. It also requires that health departments prohibit tobacco use in the grounds 50 feet surrounding their facility, and we have a policy that requires that as well. Last year, in January of 22, North Carolina Medicaid put forth a new policy, and in that, they indicated that Medicaid providers would have to not only have restrictions around indoor tobacco use, but also to restrict outdoor campuses. Specifically, they say, ensure access to common outdoor spaces that are free from exposure to tobacco use, and prohibit staff and employees from using tobacco products anywhere on campus. In fiscal year 22, North Carolina Medicaid revenue made up $1,222,353, comprising about 68% of the earned revenues for the health department. It's my understanding that about 3.7 million Medicaid earned revenues come in countywide between the health department, EMS, and senior services. We're respectfully requesting that the Board of Commissioners, serving as the Board of Health, review and consider edits to the existing Onslow County Health Department tobacco-free policy and the related Onslow County Personnel Policy 3.16 to meet Medicaid policy requirements. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank
you. Ms. Griffin?
Thank you, Chairman Foster. Our next item is with Finance Officer Andrew Prince, who will go over our budget amendments.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. I have 9 budget amendments for you today. To summarize them, I've broken them down into 3 separate categories. $238,000 is 7 new grants that county departments have brought in for the last month. One of the other is a previous grant that, due to supply chain issues, needed to be rolled forward in the budget. And the last is related to the opioid expenditures Ms. Slater spoke about this morning. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider the listed budget amendments 33 through 41. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion?
Just wanted to say thank you for the detail.
Fantastic. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Griffin?
Yes, Chairman Foster and Commissioners, I have 7 groups of appointments to go through. We'll start out with the Local Emergency Planning Committee. The Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act was ratified in 1986 and created the Local Emergency Planning Committee in Section 303. We did recently appoint members to this board. However, we did not have law enforcement representatives or a water and sewer representative. Lieutenant Pete Jackson with the Onslow County Sheriff's Office and Luther Jones III with Onslow Water and Sewer Authority have requested to serve as agency representatives in their respective roles. Their applications are on file and have been certified by the clerk's office. Both of these terms were for 2 years and would be expiring January 1st, 2025. I respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners consider approving Lieutenant Pete Jackson and Luther Jones III to serve on the Onslow County Emergency Planning Committee.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The Board of Equalization and Review is comprised of 5 members. These are annually appointed by the Board of Commissioners. The current term for the Board of Equalization and Review expires on February 28, 2023. Current members, Mr. Dennis Bragg, Ms. Jennifer Kiefer, Mr. Roger Riggs, and Mr. Charles Rawls, have all expressed a desire to continue serving on the board for the next term. Mr. Charles Rawls is willing to serve as chairman of the board. No other individuals have expressed an interest in serving, and the applications referenced are on file and have been certified by the clerk's office. We respectfully request the reappointment of Mr. Dennis Bragg, Ms. Jennifer Kiefer, Mr. Roger Riggs, Mr. Charles Rawls to the Board of Equalization and Review, and appointment of Mr. Charles Rawls as chairman for a 1-year term expiring February 28, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The Onslow County Board of Adjustment is governed by the terms of the Onslow County Zoning Ordinance and North Carolina General Statute, Section 153A-345. All members of the board shall thoroughly familiarize themselves with all of the laws and ordinances. Mr. Roger Brown of the Swansboro category will have a term expiring on January 31st, 2023. He has expressed a willingness for reappointment and has submitted a citizen participation application for consideration. No other individuals expressed an interest in serving, and the application is on file and was certified by the clerk's office. It is respectfully requested the Board of Commissioners consider reappointment of Mr. Roger Brown for the Swansboro category for a 3-year term expiring on January 31st, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Our next appointment is for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. The North Carolina Department of Public Safety partners with JCPC in each county to galvanize community leaders, locally and statewide, to reduce and prevent juvenile crime. JCPC board members are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners and meet monthly in each county. Billy Sewell has provided a citizen participation application for appointment to seat number 15, the business community seat, with a term expiring June 30th, 2024. The application is on file and has been certified by the clerk's office. we respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners consider appointment of Mr. Billy Sewell for the business community category for a 2-year term expiring June 30th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
The Eastern Carolina Human Services Agency Incorporated is a nonprofit organization that provides services to low-income families in several eastern North Carolina counties. Ms. Trudy Murray, Executive Director of the agency, has forwarded a request for reappointments to the Eastern Carolina Human Services Agency Board. The agency requests that the Commissioners consider appointment of Ms. Diana King Barnes and the reappointment of Ms. Teresa James and Reverend William McCoy to the Eastern Carolina Human Services Board for 1-year terms expiring December 31st, 2023. The applications are on file and have been certified by the Clerk's Office. We respectfully request the Board of Commissioners consider appointment of Ms. Diana King Barnes and the reappointment of Ms. Teresa James and Reverend William McCoy to the Eastern Carolina Human Services Agency Board for a 1-year term to expire December 31st, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Our next appointment is for the Consolidated Human Health Services Advisory Committee. On June 10th, 2013, the Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution 13-010 in order to consolidate the provision of social services and health department functions under county government, pursuant to Session Law 2012-126. Dr. Ishwar Gobishan, Physician category, Mr. Anthony Medlin, Pharmacist category, and Mr. Joel Churchwell, General Seat Number 1 category, have expressed a willingness for reappointment to the Consolidated Human Health Services Advisory Committee and have submitted citizen participation applications for consideration. No other individuals expressed an interest in serving, and the applications are on file and have been certified by the Clerk's Office. It is respectfully requested that the Board of Commissioners consider the reappointment of Dr. Ishwar Gobichan, Physician category, Mr. Anthony Medlin, Pharmacist category, and Mr. Joel Churchwell, General Seat Number 1, for a 3-year term expiring November 18th, 2025. It is also requested that the Board approve a residency waiver for Mr. Anthony Medlin.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Our final appointment is for the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. The Onslow County Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee strives to effectively assess the wishes of the citizens of Onslow County regarding the needs, planning, and management for the quality of parks, facilities, and recreation programs while advocating for the improvement of these programs. Currently, there is an available seat for the Richlands Township category. Mr. Thomas Brian Young has expressed interest in serving in this category. His application is on file and has been certified by the Clerk's Office. We respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners consider appointment of Mr. Thomas Brian Young, Richlands Township, for the remaining 3-year term expiring June 30th. It would expire June 30th, 2023, so it's just the remaining term.
Motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Catch your breath, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you.
Time for manager comments, I believe.
Well, it assures they will be brief, right? The state did recently announce that the public health emergency allocations will stop this month. And I bring this up because food and nutrition allotments are now going to be brought back to their pre-pandemic levels. This may impact most of the households in our area that qualify for food and nutrition assistance. And I wanted to let the public know that DSS is prepared and has a hotline available to answer questions and to assist citizens who may be left in need and have additional questions or would like to look at other resources. I would also say in response to, and I'm sure some of you would respond as well, but it's important for the public to know that when we go through tax revaluation, the overall increase of one homeowner is not the same as what the average increase is. And some of our homeowners actually had their market value go down and their tax assessment go down, while others had it go up. So there was not a 40% increase across the board. That's all I have, unless you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move into commissioner comments, and I'll nicely remind everyone it's around 1:20 now, so maybe we can limit our comments this afternoon, and we'll start with Commissioner Scott.
Thank you for the opportunity to serve. I look forward to serving. We're going to be addressing the budget, very near and dear to my heart. So we're going to be working hard to get that taken care of. I hope y'all have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Commissioner Bennett?
Oh, wow.
Jump right on down there to you.
Hey, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I'll thank our department heads for their reports and everybody who came to speak publicly. Made me wonder if there's a way we can do an overlay of the airport area to give us the authority to make sure we can regulate, require conditional use around the airport to make sure that we don't have development that's not adequate for the airport. Just something to think about. Hope y'all have a great day. I'm hungry.
Commissioner Price?
I'd like to thank the Small Business Center at Coastal Carolina Community College for hosting Secretary of State Elaine Marshall. They had a panel of small business owners that discussed the growth of small business, which has been tremendous in North Carolina, and also some of the challenges faced by a small business. So it was really good. Also, I enjoyed judging the speech and debate at Crystal Coast Classic held at Tar Landing Baptist Church on the 27th and 28th of January. And if you want to feel good about the future, and just go to one of those events and hear those kids speak and debate, it really made you feel hopeful for the future. Thank you. Have a good day.
Mr. Buchanan?
Thank everybody for being here, and have a safe afternoon.
Commissioner Carpenter?
I wrote down just a couple of things. I promise I will be as brief as I possibly can. I had the pleasure of attending a quarterly meeting with TASCO, which is Turning Adversity into Success for Children in Onslow, last week, and that's something they're committed to do on a quarterly basis. At the meeting, actually, I committed to the gal who was participating from one place, and I took myself off Facebook for a while, and I put myself back on Facebook saying that I was going to be participating in making sure we bring this topic of child abuse to light, because we need to remove the stigma and get people the help that they need and get the community more involved. And I feel like the way that we do that is we start talking about that. So child abuse is preventable. There's excellent resources here in our community, and I just want to be the first person to be saying it from the board up here. Another topic that keeps coming up, and actually it was something that I ran on, and I'm sick of the word now really, but is transparency. And I've had conversations with different board members as well as with Chairman Foster about this, and then I got a blog recently that addressed the topic again, and I feel like now that I'm up here and I can see kind of what goes on, I know one of you up here said this to me, but when you can see what really goes on, I just want to give an educational piece, because I feel like there is education that's missing that might shine some light on why it looks like it is not transparent, but it really is. So I want to give a couple of things. These books right here that we get, that are these secret books, are available to the public. And if you ask for them, once the commissioners have looked at theirs, it is available to you. I know, because I used to receive it when I was running for office. So that's topic one. The other thing is closed sessions really are very infrequent, let's just say that, and they're limited to the topic matter that we actually discuss. I know we said just briefly a couple of things, Brett, you were saying like closed sessions are limited to, and give me 2 points.
Yeah, so one, General Statute 143-318.11 gives the parameters for closed sessions, and they have to be topic specific, so attorney-client privilege, or if you're acquiring property, et cetera. And everything that happens in a closed session, if there's going to actually be action for the county, would come into an open session and it would be noticed at a meeting, and the public would be able to take part in that meeting. So no action is actually taking place in closed sessions.
Thank you. No, that's what I was hoping to say, yeah. So, and I heard from Sharon Griffin that we actually are one of the counties that doesn't have a regular closed session every single month. So I think we're doing a good job, and there's always questions that can be asked. I know all of us are welcome to answer any questions that come up, and as I continue to learn, I'll be sharing like acronyms, and because that always drove me nuts, is what is EOC? Well, it's the Emergency Operations Center. We need a legend, I think, in this little book that we have, don't you? Anyway, thank you so much. Have a great week.
Thank you. Vice Chairman?
I'm going to keep it real brief. Good comments, Commissioner Carpenter. I mean, you're seeing it from this side and understand how transparent we are, and I appreciate that. I want to thank all the speakers that came today to speak. It's past lunchtime. I know right now everything is wah, 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 wah that you're hearing. So I'm going to say good day, and hope we see you back at the next meeting.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate everybody coming out today, all the speakers. It's important to be heard. Sometimes you'll walk out with a decision not made in your favor, but know that you were heard and everything is being weighed out to make those decisions, and a decision has to be made. Somebody's going to leave happy, somebody's going to leave unhappy. Unfortunately, that's how that ship sails. And I do want to say this one thing. Grants are great, and the Sheriff's Office presented several that were non-matching, matching $215,000 worth, I believe, that the sheriff presented today, and that is outstanding, what he's bringing to us that we don't have to pay for without grants. There's a lot of business that doesn't get to be taken care of. With that being said, thank you. We'll see you on the 13th for budget discussions.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.